Men have like, they have vision, they have dreams, they have audacity, like women do too, but men are much more vocal about it. They will walk into a room, kick the door in like the Kool-Aid man and voice what they think should be happening. And it's exciting and it's attractive to everyone there and everyone can get behind it.
Yeah,
and
you want like a breakdown of like how you get there.
Then the women come in with the breakdown and it's like, oh, she's sucking the life out of the room. And women are seen as like, they're bossy or they're too stringent or they're nagging, and they're doing what they're best at.
Yeah,
after the
solving.
men come in and do what they're best at. And I think there needs to be that both, and it needs to be like that's where that open-mindedness of like everyone make room at this table for.
Dude, we all have the best time ever to start a small business.
If I'm not going to be 100% in, I'm not going to do it.
Come on, man, just be yourself.
Yeah,
and just show up as yourself.
If you don't realize what I'm really about, I'm about freedom, family, and my country.
Miss Carly Olson.
Hello.
Welcome. Cheers. I don't really drink.
I don't.
You're Miss Healthy, but we made you like fake a drink.
I know. I'm trying to blend in.
It's the Christmas season,
It's
you
also
know?
cold out.
So yeah, we gotta get you like a hot toddy
Yep.
or a tea.
Tea.
We should have did that.
We should.
It's actually not that cold. You're just used to that Texas weather.
I am. My Houston blood got real thinned out. I haven't been back in a couple years, but I'm getting used to it.
So, you know what this podcast is all about. You do a lot of the back office digital infrastructure, copywriting, landing pages for the events, and
Yep.
postcards, and all of that good stuff for us here at Fireside, and me more specifically, and I thank you for that.
Yep.
You're here for our Christmas party tomorrow, which is going to be awesome. We sold out.
I'm so excited, yep.
This podcast is about turning around and helping the next girl and guy in line. And I think what happens a lot of times with podcasts is, how do I get to the next big guest? Big guest, big guest, million followers, right?
Yeah.
And this podcast was predicated on like, how do I help the next girl or guy get started in business? Because it started based around COVID and having people have their souls ripped out, having to go back to work if they didn't want a vaccine and they were forced to take it.
Yeah.
So that pissed me off. I don't like bullies.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to go make sure that I help every girl and guy who want the opportunity to go open a business realize that they can do it by hearing other stories.
Yeah.
And that's why you're here. I think your story is a really good one, and you're still growing, you're still learning. I think your business has so much more upside to go, and I know you're going to hit those goals that you have for yourself.
Yeah.
I think you're a really strong person for the ladies, and I don't mean in a way where you're like, you know, leading the feminist movement.
Definitely not.
But you have like a different twist on that, and you're an East Coast person, which is always
Born
easy.
and raised, proud of it.
Always easy for me to talk to. So I'm excited to get into this chat. You're a good friend, you're a good person, and I'm excited for the other young women, or maybe older women on the other end, who may be inspired by your story, or men.
Yeah.
So, born and raised in Connecticut. Tell us where in Connecticut exactly.
Yes, sir. Connecticut, Massachusetts. My dad traveled a lot when I was growing up for work. He was in sales for a tech company. So wherever his office needed him, wherever his next role was, we moved around a bunch. But yeah, from Naugatuck Valley, part of Connecticut, New Haven area originally, moved up to Worcester, Massachusetts for a big chunk of my childhood, and then back down. My family lives close to the UConn campus now in northern Connecticut. So always kind of like jumping around, but always kind of like in the country, in the backwoods. My dad never liked living where he could see other people's houses from our house. So still grew up very much like this, still grew up like with that country lifestyle, hunting, fishing, all that kind of stuff with my dad, my cousins. So a little bit of mix of both.
Did you love it? Was your dad like making you like the tomboy? He's like, get out there, let's do some fishing.
Yeah, yep, 15 guy cousins and a brother growing up. I was the only girl, so I was fishing, I was hunting. I still love hunting with my dad. Just always outside on the quad. We were never like typical millennial upbringing. Like we were not.
You want to go for a night ride on New Polaris later after this?
Hell yeah.
You have to check it out. We got 4 in there, so
I could drive my own.
That's
I'll
what I'm
race
saying.
ya.
We all have some. Let's put Dylan on a little mini dirt bike.
Yeah,
The
we'll tow him.
PW50.
No,
What type
but
of hunting do you do?
I just bird hunting right now. I've been deer hunting, been turkey hunting. Would love to go hog hunting living in Texas now,
Hell yeah.
but
Out of the helicopter?
I don't know. Helicopters scare me. I don't
What?
know. I don't know about helicopters. Helicopters and hot air balloons, just,
Hot air balloons, I get it. Helicopters.
I don't know. I'll think about it.
So you grew up in the country, right?
Yeah.
Although you're in Massachusetts and Connecticut on the East Coast, but for most of you people who maybe watch the show that aren't from our area, like the topography changes quick. You can be at the ocean, the city,
Yeah.
to sheer woods in Connecticut and Massachusetts real fast. And Massachusetts also has some great, boarding and skiing as well.
Yep,
Some nice
grew
mountains.
up right down the street from Mount Wachusett, so I was skiing. My parents threw me in ski lessons when I was 6, so winters there skiing. Grew up doing that. Tried snowboarding a few times. Feel like I got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
I hear once you
You gotta
start
have some
skiing.
bourbons before you go.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
But yeah, all the outdoor stuff. Hiking, always in the woods with my dad. One of his favorite things to do is when, like up here, we get hit with like the remnants of hurricanes. I'm down in Texas now, we get hit with the hurricanes, but up here we get the aftermath. His favorite thing to do is go for a hike in the woods in a
Yeah.
tropical storm. So
All the wind blowing,
yeah,
all the trees moving.
falling. That's like
I get it.
We'd always do that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was good. It was a good upbringing out there.
That's cool. So going into your childhood a little bit, we have talked about this in the past, inside the mastermind, which is the pit, which we are now dissolving for going into 2025, but it's been a great run and you've been super helpful in there as well.
Yep.
We all talk about it. Sometimes it's group therapy, sometimes it's business, sometimes it's inspiration, and it comes from all different people, not just myself, you included. And we got on some conversations about your childhood and things that were tough for you, things that put more or less a chip on your shoulder. Can you discuss some of that stuff? Are you willing to discuss some of that stuff? Because there might be others going through similar things and you can be somebody that helps them overcome that, just like you have.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up like, I don't know what you would call it, oldest child syndrome. Like a lot of times I was held to very, very high standards. It was not like a question. Like I was expected to get straight A's. I was expected to perform well. I was expected to do my very best all the time, be 100%, be a good person, excel in my extracurriculars, all of that. And it was a lot of pressure looking back on it. I had a very, very lucky, privileged upbringing, very like middle class, married parents. My parents are high school sweethearts. They've been married 42 years, like very loving family, very big family. Never really had any kind of like crazy family trauma or anything like that. Nothing terrible happened, but it was just a constant steady
That's the
stream
problem.
of
You needed some more family trauma.
I needed more family
It
trauma.
really helps you motivate you.
But I had like just this constant stream of like, I felt like I needed to be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, growing up, like we were just talking about this, growing up like in New England, there's kind of like a stereotype of like people up there, like they're iffy about outsiders. Like I live in the South now, they're very welcoming. Like everyone come on in, this is the best state there is. Growing up in New England, it was very much like people aren't so welcoming. It's a lot more tight-knit. And I was bullied a lot growing up. Like not one single friend until I got to high school. Not one. I didn't go to birthday parties. Like I didn't get invited to sleepovers. Like I played sports and all of that, but I was bullied for being overweight, very overweight, and was kind of like a loner. My best friend was my cousin, who he actually passed away when we were 13, very unexpectedly. And that hit me really hard, but it was a lot of very, I don't want to say isolating, but independence. I was forced into independence.
Do you think that was a good or a bad thing later on, or how do you look back on it?
Both. I think looking back on it now, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the lessons it taught me. Do you need to throw that on?
Yeah, just cover your eyes just in case some sparks come.
Made it on this time. Good job.
You got it.
Looking back on it, I do think I'm grateful for it. It very much did shape my personality. It gave me a very, very, I don't want to say I'm alpha by any means, like an alpha female, but I'm extremely independent, and my childhood forced me to be that because I didn't really have anyone helping me. It was just kind of like, you're held to the standard, go figure it out. So I'm grateful for it. I love what it has done to how I operate and how I see the world. So it is what it is. Everyone has a little bit of a different upbringing.
Yeah, you learn from it.
Yeah.
I wasn't held to a higher standard. I barely was passing the grade I was in.
Yeah.
But I can relate to being, a loner at times. Although I did have a lot of friends, I was wild, I was hyper. I was definitely the kid that the parents were like, I don't know, like, don't let that kid over. He's kind of like going to break the windows or something. Like, I definitely had that going on when I look back on my childhood, and I guess I felt that in some type of subconscious way.
Yeah.
But again, it also did make me very independent. I was out of my house by 18 for a multitude of reasons, and that's what set me up to be successful and be so independent. But I also have to say, like, I don't have, a ton of tight relationships with people. Like, I don't. I just, there's a very few close friends. My business partners, obviously we do business together, so you're forced to talk. And, Trevor and his wife, Dami, and, my wife. And I have childhood friends I still stay in touch with, but no one, like, tight. And I'm just, like, cool with it. It's just kind of who I am.
And that's how I am too. Like, I have my best friends I've been friends with for 15 years now. It's kind of like they're lifers and they stick with you. And I have so many acquaintances now, so many networks, I do have a lot of friends right now at this point in my life. But, like, same thing with you.
It's different at our age.
It's way different. And I think that's okay too. I think, too, I see a lot of similarities in you and I where, like, I know you have one of the biggest hearts of anyone that I know, and I do that. I do the same thing. I truly feel that the purpose that God gave me on this earth is to care for other people, to take care of other people, to help people, whether it is in business or personally or my friends, my family, a stranger that I meet. I can't focus on myself. I care for other people very deeply.
Yeah.
And I think
almost too much sometimes, right?
a lot of the time too much.
Yeah.
But I think it comes back to, like, having, like, more of an independent childhood and a little bit more isolated
Well, you almost feel that. It's almost like, I think about it for myself, like, why do I care so much that Nick Berkanski, not to pick on Nick, like, how come he hasn't left his full-time job and going into his business? Like, it bothers me, and I know how much he wants it, and then I feel for him that he wants that thing that he wants to obtain, which is financial freedom and getting away from this 9-to-5 job, and then I end up wanting it more for Nick than he wants it for himself.
Yeah.
And then I get almost annoyed with these people because I care that much. It's almost like a curse, but I think it's like going back to, like, talking to young Ryan.
Yeah.
In some type of way.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, I'm not a psychologist. I've talked to many of them. They can't figure me out still. But there's, like, I don't think that's bad. I think it's a good thing. It's just, you have to make sure that you take care of yourself too. You can't do it to the place where you're unhealthy and not taking care of you.
For sure. And I think the world needs people on both sides of the spectrum. Like, there needs to be people that care for others, because a lot of people in turn just don't care about anyone but themselves, and the people surrounding them need the people that are going to be there to help pick up the slack. Or maybe they did have the family trauma from their childhood. Maybe they don't have a close network of people as adults where we didn't have it as kids. Like
Yeah.
there has to be that yin and yang of the universe, and I think it's okay. I get super frustrated with like the constant state of like self-development nowadays and perfection and fix yourself.
Yeah, it's almost
go to
too much.
therapy,
I can't
make
stop.
Sure,
Yeah, I can't stop like growth.
Just
I'm
be
obsessed
who you
with it.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay.
My biggest thing is like I'm not important. Like that's like something I've come up with, and people are like, "Oh, then why do you have a podcast and why do you talk on social?" Like you're not going to hear me talk on social much anymore. You'll hear me talk on this podcast. Like I'm not important. Like one of the biggest thing I think the Bible teaches you, and what I think Christians have helped save this world with electing Trump, and anybody could think I'm crazy, and just kind of goes back to what that book says. You know, like I'm a nobody. I really am. We all are. We're all human. We all put our pants on the same way. We all could die the same way. You know, we're just people, and nobody's more important than the next person. You may have different skills and talents, and what I try to do now is say something in you has the ability. I think I said this actually last podcast, but my old, partner and boss, Jim Ortenzio, used to say, he goes, "What's great about you is like you have the ability to let things bounce off you like a metal baseball bat hitting a concrete wall." He's like, "It does not faze you."
Yeah.
He's like, "That's special." He's like,
Yeah.
"Use that in the right way."
Yeah.
And, so I can get up here and talk and be vulnerable and interview people and be silly and get into the political thing and not care what anybody says. So I try to use my platform for the good, but I'm nobody important. Nobody is.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to give, and you give to get. And that's something I'm really going to put an emphasis on in 2025.
Yeah.
And I know you do a lot of that yourself.
It's funny that you say that and that you brought up the Bible, not to get churchy on this podcast, but my pastor actually said something about that the other day in our service. He said, what you're putting your energy into going to be in heaven when you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is what you're putting your money into, is what you're putting your effort into, who you're putting your effort and your love into.
Finance wasn't, this is.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. Are they, like, is everything that is taking everything about you and who you are and you're spending everything you have on it, can you see that, like, at the end of this life when you get there, when you meet your maker, is it going to be there? Because if it's not, what are you spending time on?
Yeah, and that couldn't be further from, that couldn't be more the truth.
Yeah.
I think everybody chases things, social media, right? It puts this glamour life on marriage, business, material things. Like, I'm just trying to live the life that me and Kelly want to live now with our kids.
Yeah.
I really don't give a shit
Yeah.
what anybody else thinks. And I think that's how you really get to your peace. And if I'm honest with myself, I think that's what I'm actually searching for is peace. Because I've always been so tense and a fighter, and I think I'll always be a fighter for the good. I don't think that ever leaves you, that killer instinct.
Yeah.
But just finding a little bit more daily peace and,
Happiness is fleeting, but peace it stays with you. A sustained peace, that's what life is about.
yeah, absolutely. So, went to high school, were you a good student? Did you get those A's your dad wanted?
I did. I got straight A's. If I got a B, it was like, oh my God. Like
The paddle came out?
It
Got a spanking?
wasn't that bad, but it was like that mental shame of like, oh, it was not perfection.
What I have to say to the defense of your mom and dad is that generation thought they wanted you to have a better life than them, and they thought that college
absolutely.
and education was the route to do so.
Yeah.
And I get the parents who did that.
Yeah.
They meant no ill will by it, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, it was, I ended up going to UConn. That's where my dad went. I was a legacy student there. And I tried to take it like the extra mile. Like I took summer classes and I ended up graduating a semester early. I studied abroad. I was in a sorority. Like I did all these things that I thought like were
Did
just
you ride
like,
equestrian?
when I was younger, I did.
Because UConn has a team, right?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't on that. I tried out for their softball team, but I was not a big enough girl at that time to be playing.
You had to hit the
collegiate
deadlift
sports.
more.
Yeah.
Where'd you study abroad?
I actually did twice. I studied in Florence, Italy, my last semester.
Did we talk about this with
And
Kelly?
then- I don't think
Kelly
so.
studied abroad in Florence.
You may have mentioned that to me before. Now that
Yeah.
you're saying that, yeah, I think in passing conversation we've talked about it. Yeah, I lived in Florence my last semester in 2011, and then I went and got my master's degree, and I ended up studying in the Südtirol region, which is like northern by Austria.
What did you think about those experiences, and how important was it?
The bug bit me to be out in the world, for sure.
There was more than America and Connecticut and Massachusetts.
My family, the majority of my old longtime friends, they have never left Connecticut, and they never will leave Connecticut. My whole
Which is
family.
also fine too.
It's fine, but I saw the world and I saw something bigger, and as soon as I got back from studying abroad, I have now lived in 5 different states. I've lived in other countries. I've lived all over the US. I've lived in the South. I've lived in the Midwest. I've lived all over, and I was trying to find that place because I never felt like I fit in growing up. Like the perfectionism and the bullying and all of that, like I just felt off. Like I thought different, like politically, and beliefs, and just my motivation to do things and to want to do more, to be better with my life. I didn't want to get married out of college and buy a house and a white picket fence and have babies, and like that's fine. Like I
mad at
love
it, yeah.
that. If that is your dream, everyone should have the exact life that they want. And I did not want that life, and that was very much what was trying to be instilled in me by my family, was just like our parents' generation, that blue collar upbringing. Like you get married, you have a family, and that is your life.
Are you going to find your husband on this trip?
Yeah.
And then get married and then have kids? It's funny, you get into a relationship, they're like, when's the wedding?
Yep. And
then you get engaged,
then
it's like,
when you have
when's
kids,
the baby?
Yep. And I didn't want that. Like studying abroad was kind of like that trip into like, wait, there's a place out there in the world where the people think different, they look different, they live different, the world looks different, the environment looks different. What else is out there? What can I be doing? Like I am not ready to put roots down yet. And up until very, very recently, I wanted to see everything before I made that decision.
Yeah, that's super cool. What was one of your most favorite places you lived?
They were all super special to me in their own way. I lived in South Central Colorado for a few years, and I worked on a dairy goat ranch, so I got to just wake up every day and play with goats, and it was the best job ever.
That's
And
cool.
I'm still best friends with the owner of that ranch. She's one of my very best friends. I was there a couple months ago just visiting her, and it was very cool. I'm drawn to, I don't know if this goes back to like feelings I've had my whole life, but I love feeling insignificant. I love feeling like if I were just a blip like in the world would still go on. And being out in Colorado with like the mountains and the scenery and just how big everything is, and you are so small.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Well, it makes you realize
feeling.
it.
It's just like you look around and you're like, the world doesn't need me. I need the world. Now what can I go do to like make life full?
Yeah, we all should look at that.
Yeah.
Life that way. We should
Yeah.
look at like, what can we do for our country? What can we do for our community? What can we do for our friends, our family?
Yeah.
And I've always realized the more I give, the more I get.
Absolutely.
I really do believe that.
You have to like figure out a reason. Like I hate the phrase like find your why, but like you have to have like a
Purpose.
reason. You have to have a reason for like wanting, like for loving your country, for wanting a family, for discovering like what you need to do in the world. Like you have to know what that is. You have to figure it out. Otherwise you're just going to settle into the life that everyone tries to
Push
put
for you.
in.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So what'd you study in college?
I studied marketing, business, but funny story, UConn, thanks a lot. UConn wouldn't let me into their school of business. Nick and Nikki Fusilli are gonna laugh at me because I couldn't pass accounting. I had to take accounting twice, and you needed a B to get into accounting, and I got a C minus as my highest grade because me and numbers don't really hang.
It's not your thing. Who cares?
It's not my thing. Numbers and me don't really get along. So UConn School of Business is very competitive. They wouldn't let me into their business school, so I couldn't major in marketing. I couldn't get a degree in marketing. However, because UConn's an agricultural school, if I majored in agribusiness marketing, then I could get a business degree and I could study marketing.
Ag
So
biz.
I studied sustainable food systems and economics of food.
Is that
and
why you're on that
agriculture.
daily, that goat farm?
That was just my interest. That's a passion that I have. I love the food system. I love sustainable agriculture. I love learning about how different countries grow food and like establish their resources and all of the systems for that.
Did you see the Colorado craft beef guy?
I haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah,
no.
you should watch it. They're big into ag.
Yeah.
She's like I'll totally butcher it, no pun intended. I have no idea what it is, but it's like, she's like a really smart, like, cattle person.
Yeah.
Like, and their
It's
foods and
fascinating.
like, it's like very in depth. She's 5th generation.
Yeah.
And he's like a private equity ag guy. He kind of comes from that world. And then they obviously got together and took, over her parents' ranch and, are doing really well. You should really check out that podcast.
Absolutely.
He dove deep on some very sophisticated stuff and then talking about that world. I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
So came out of college, marketing degree, agriculture. What was your first job?
Connecticut Department of Agriculture, the Marketing Bureau.
They have a marketing bureau?
Yep, went right into it. It was back in the day before the internet. I was solely responsible. I put together all the pick your own brochures and the orchards and the farm stand brochures, and I designed them in Microsoft Word.
How
and
was that?
Sent them out, and they had them printed, and they put them at all the rest stops in the state, and it was real important.
Did you walk in and you're like, I designed that?
Yep, that was back in the day. I'm sure they do it way different now, but
You were a hit.
I had a Rolodex set with all the phone numbers on it. That was a long time ago. It was 15 years ago.
That's
But,
wild.
Yeah,
How long did that last?
not very long. I did not want to work for the government. Everyone in that bureau was
Hated
not
life.
happy with their life,
Yeah.
and it was real scary. Going
Isn't it
in.
wild you walk into like, and I don't want to put a broad brush because there's a lot of happy people that are grateful, but most like government jobs, municipalities, like people hate their life.
They made the pension real attractive, and I've actually thought about that a lot. Like, I thought about it this year. I was like,
Pension
if
is
I
an
had
anchor.
Stayed there, I'd be 4 years. I'd get to retire. 4 years, but I would not have had the life that I have had for the last 15. But I was just like, dang! Imagine if I had stayed there. I'd only have 4 years left, and I'd be retired.
Pension is like strapping, a cinder block to your leg and jumping in the ocean.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's not attractive.
it's really
anymore.
not that attractive.
Yeah.
It keeps people there,
Yeah,
but it's not like a fun place.
yeah,
So you made the right decision. You have a ton of life experience.
I think so.
And you're doing good now. So tell us how you kind of got into the corporate world doing a little bit more of the stuff that you've become an expert in.
So I went from the government agency to the first half of my career was in nonprofit work, and it was for a lot of food systems nonprofits. So I did a lot of work in Connecticut, in Rhode Island, in Colorado, working with food systems and inequity in the food supply and helping farmers, helping citizens, helping low-income families, just kind of all helping schools at one point, but just like various nonprofits over the years, because I wanted to marry the two. I was really passionate about the food system, but I was also passionate about, I didn't really realize this until it was retrospect, but I have a very business-oriented mindset, and I went into it like, you need money. Like, you are a nonprofit, but you are a business. You are trying to get revenue to grow, to do better things, to have more stakeholders, to affect more people, customers, if you will. And it very much, I know there's a really big divide. I learned this a few years later trying to get into the corporate world. Corporate marketing, marketers, I don't want to say look down on, but it was very difficult for me to go from the nonprofit world to the for-profit world. And it was like directly said to me, like, you don't have the experience in a for-profit entity. We can't hire you. And I was like, it's the same thing. It is story branding. It is having a constituent. It is pulling on the heartstrings of a consumer. It is raising capital. It is, here's my marketing textbook from college, which is no longer relevant in any way. But like at the time, I was like, how are you telling me that this is not working? So
Was that college degree worth the money?
I think so, because I went and got my master's. I do think during my corporate career, it allowed me to jump up on the pay scale, but that's really it. I think personally, it gave me a lot more than it did in my career. I did not learn anything in my master's. I learned much more from my travels than I did from my coursework.
Yeah, I mean,
And
that's...
my view on college has very much changed, and I am incredibly grateful that I had a college experience.
I had a buddy, Dave Rabe, that passed away, rest in peace, in a boat race a few years back. And his kids used to get in trouble all the time because he took them out of school to go on these vacations, Dubai, all these crazy places. We were racing boats. And he's like, dude, I didn't learn shit in school. I make 7 figures, great job in finance. Like, I want my kids to see the world. They're going to learn so much by doing and experiencing versus going to school. And I'm not anti-school. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of personal growth that happens in college.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of experience you obtain through doing.
Yeah.
Whether that be working, being an intern, or just, especially travel. Travel puts you outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. It teaches you, I think it's exposure to people. I think a lot of people that I know that did go to college, they went out every week and they drank a lot and they went to bars and they had a social scene, but that was the extent of them.
It's like a circle. It's like same people.
Those people were in their weddings and they're their best friends today. They're the godparents of their children and
That's so
they're
boring.
lifelong friends, and that's fine. But if you want to, I feel the biggest growth that I've had personally and professionally has been from people, has been absolutely from the pit, from Fireside, from our network that we share. Like, everyone has helped me grow. I've grown more in the last 3 years with my skill sets and my career and the opportunities that have been presented to me from the people that are around me.
I remember you called me like last October. It was maybe the October before. I remember it was October because I was at a farm and Kelly was spending way too much money on corn and pumpkins and all the stupid shit to decorate my porch. Which, baby, you do a great job decorating. I love the decorating, you know that. But I hate going to those farms with a pack with 8 zillion people and you got to weave through all this stuff. Anyway, I digress. I was in the car waiting for them to come back in, and we called and you asked me a question like, hey, why do you think I'm like struggling with this? And I said, Carly, I think you intimidate other men. Like, I think you are tough. And a little bit of it is maybe as a guarded shell. Remember that conversation?
I remember this conversation because I had moved back to Connecticut temporarily, and I was just trying to figure out I want to massively grow right now. I just had
I don't want to come back here. I feel like I'm retracting.
Yeah. I was trying to make a diving catch, and and it wasn't and we weren't talking about men as in dating. It was very much transitioning into the business world. It was, why can I not get ahead in business? I feel like me being a female has something to do with it.
Yeah, but you showed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with men in particular. It was you come off a certain way because you're so determined and you have big aspirations.
You told me when you first met me you thought I was going to beat you up.
Yeah, I thought you were I'm like, this girl's aggressive. Jesus Christ, I don't think I could deal with her, right?
My New England was showing.
Yeah, right? So, and I think that those conversations people seek out have amazing growth. Because sometimes you're kind of hearing things about yourself that you don't want to hear. I had a great conversation with my good friend Nick Shortness that I hope one day I get on the podcast because he is a deep human and he wants no love. He wants to hide. He calls himself a dumb dog trainer. He's a very successful guy. He's far from dumb. And Nick has given me some of my most brutal feedback. Back to a few weeks ago, he's like, I let you run on your high horse for this past year. A couple good reels go off. You're seeming like a fucking tool. And he's like, perception's reality. I know your intent, but blah, 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 blah. We went on this conversation. And I welcome that stuff with people in my inner circle that I trust and love, because that's where you grow. And I've seen you do that a ton with not just me, a ton of people in our ecosystem, and I'm sure outside of our ecosystem. And I think more people need to seek those things about themselves,
For sure.
and they'll find growth. Now, don't forget who you are.
Yeah.
Don't let someone manipulate you or change you. But there is things that once it's shown to you, you go, all right, I do that.
And I did take, I remember this conversation. I remember where I was in my car in the parking lot of my gym. Like I was outside the parking lot doing the thing where you're there and you can't go in
I don't
yet.
want to go in.
So I was talking to you. I was voice messaging you.
I usually drink my whole coffee outside.
But yeah, no, I was at a point in my life, and I feel like you have to be in this mindset of, you have to be ready and anticipating a transformation to come. Otherwise, you are going to take it personally and you're not going to listen to anyone. And you are the only one that can check yourself and like designate a period of your life to be receptive to other people, no matter what they say to you. And it's the reason that I was able to receive it from you is because it's what I do in my business, is helping businesses like take their baby, like business owners take their business, and I essentially tear it apart on them and figure out their brand, because something about their brand isn't working.
It's like, hey buddy, I know you worked on this website for 3 years, but it sucks.
Literally, sometimes that is it. Sometimes they are so proud of something, and I can look at it for 2 seconds and be like, you did these 6 things wrong, and this is your problem. And when you were saying that to me, like, it's your demeanor, like you need to be more personable. You come off as this like this alpha female, this intimidator. And I really took that to heart, and I was like, all right.
I meant it in a loving way. I wasn't trying to be mean.
Of course you did. No. And I mean, it's tough sometimes being a female in a small business environment, because small businesses, apart from the corporate world, you kind of have this bubble around you where you're hired to do a job, and as long as you do that job, there's really no attention drawn to you.
I want to take a quick break, and I want to get into being a female, those feelings you have, not only in small business with what we were just talking about, but also the corporate world. And that was the reason you made the transition. There's a mouse running on the rocks into being a entrepreneur. So we'll be right back. All right, jumping back in, you were talking as a woman going into business ownership, and as well as in the corporate world, you can feel intimidated at times with men in leadership and just feeling a certain way about how you go about your success as a woman. Explain that to me.
So, I mean, when I was in the corporate world, I don't want to say I was intimidated. I know there were situations where I felt intimidated, I felt uncomfortable. I wasn't overarchingly intimidated, but rather I very much did feel like there is a culture and an expectation in corporate America that does kind of, not that it is obviously oppressing women, but it's just kind of like the norm is a certain way for women in corporate America. So why
like the
mess
boys'
with
club.
it? Yeah. And I felt like I wanted to be at the board's table. I wanted to be in the big meetings. I wanted to have a bigger say in the strategy of things. Like, my brain was going a mile a minute, but you are hired for a job and you need to stay in your lane in corporate America. It's like, we like your ideas, we love your skill set, we want your resume and your paper, we want to pay you to do this, we want the best, but you stay over here and let everyone else do their job over here. Mm-hmm. And I did that for many years, and I felt like I wanted to witness the change that I was being a part of. I didn't just want to execute day in, day out, and then hand it off to someone else to take it through with the rest of the strategy.
So I have something controversial to say.
Go ahead.
And I hope it doesn't come off wrong, but I really have a hard time listening to women bosses.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I've tried to like figure it out, like, am I mad at my mom over something, or, you know, a principal I hated, or a particular teacher, because I'm a thinker like this. Like, I walk back through these steps, and I don't know.
Here's what I think. I think that what I am really, really passionate about, and I went kind of in a rant on this on my social media. Not a rant, I just made a post about it a while back. But I don't believe in, this is a sensitive sentence to say, don't come at me. I don't believe men and women are equal. I believe in equal opportunity, but I do not believe that men and women are equal. I believe that there are things that women are much better at than men, and vice versa, especially in business. I believe that women need to be playing with the big boys, and I believe that the boys need to make room at their table to bring more women in. And speculation, sorry, Matt, I hit the mic. Speculation, I think maybe the reason that you have a problem with listening to females in charge is because I do think a lot of the time women are much more articulate, they're much more organized, they have actionable items that need to be done in a specific order.
And that scares me. I'm like, oh,
Not
this is too
not that
organized.
it's scary, but like men have like, they have vision, they have dreams, they have audacity. Like women do too, but men are much more vocal about it. They will walk into a room, kick the door in like the Kool-Aid man, and voice what they think should be happening. And it's exciting and it's attractive to everyone there, and everyone can get behind it.
Yeah,
And
you want like a
then-
breakdown of like how you get there.
Then the women come in with the breakdown, and it's like, oh, she's sucking the life out of the room. And women are seen as like they're bossy, or they're too stringent, or they're nagging, and they're doing what they're best at.
Yeah,
After
problem
the
solving.
men come in and do what they're best at. And I think there needs to be that both, and it needs to be like that's where that open-mindedness of like, everyone make room at this table for people to do what they're good at, so you're not having that confliction.
I totally agree. I'm not defending myself, but I haven't thought like that as much as of late, especially the last 2-3 years. I've put a lot of women around me, people like yourself and others. We've had a good amount of women in the pit, and they're all strong women.
Yeah.
None of them were shy to say what they needed to say, and you know, the organizational skills, the problem solving, you know, those checkpoints to go actually obtain that goal. I am 1000% will admit I'm a visionary, I'm a motivator, I can move you off your block, no problem. But some of the detail work, some of the blocking and tackling, I absolutely lack in. And a younger Ryan who was so driven to be somewhere and had such a chip, if I had a woman boss, say in finance, come in and say, do this, this, and that, and you'll get more deals, that definitely would have set me off as a younger male personally.
Sure.
But like your point is like spot on. I actually like that a lot.
And there's no, I mean, I'm gonna categorize it into men and women. It's never black and white like this, but like some way the men's way is better, sometimes the female's way is better. Sometimes, a lot of the time, it's better to just have that vision and just go for it and figure it out later.
What about like the
And
boss
sometimes
babe?
it's
Like
not.
some of the boss babes, it's like I want to fucking headbutt them. Like what is going on right now?
That's a whole culture thing. That's a whole other conversation. That, yeah, I think there's business is business, regardless of how you look at it. It has to, whoever, man, woman, alien, whatever, they have.
There's been a lot of
to-
UFOs lately.
There has been.
You want to get into that?
I'm not going down that rabbit hole with you.
Well, you brought up aliens, and there's been a lot of UFOs in Jersey.
I've heard about that, the drone thing.
No, I actually really like that segment we just went through. I think it's a good exercise for a lot of men who watch this podcast to think about, even in your small business. You know, we'll plan a landing page, and, you know, I got one vision, and I'm a big visionary, and, you know, my mind's all over the place, and pull down data and information from all over, and you're like, well, you point out just one thing. That's a major thing. And, you know, to the point where I've kind of just let you run with, you know, the newsletter, branding, look, feel, the landing pages. Obviously, Matt works with you and input from me as well, but I don't put much.
Yeah.
That's super helpful, because that's a task that now I don't have to overly think about. It's a super important task, but I'm on to 7 others.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think a lot of men who are business owners should bring women, and even if it's their wife, you know, if they can handle that in their marriage.
Yeah. And I mean, you asked me, I think what you asked me before the break, you called me out on almost like being intimidating and being too much of a hard ass. And
You were.
I think it was me trying to overcompensate, because that conversation happened at kind of like at the very tail end of the first year of my business, where I was all in. I had no plan B. And I was at the tail end of like that first year of, am I going to replace my corporate income that I just gave up? Because I put all my eggs in one basket in my business. I had no backup plan. I had no safety net. It was, I'm going to start this business to survive. And you caught me at the tail end of that year kind of panicking. And when you called that out, it kind of made me realize that intimidation that I was projecting onto other people and giving as like my reputation, I was trying to fill all of those roles. I was trying to fill like what my male leaders, my male colleagues that I had been around my whole career, I was trying to harness what they were doing with my like more female meticulous organization, make sure all my tasks are done. And it was just everything. And I did not have like that seat at the table. I did not have room for anyone else. And I mean,
I challenged myself to say that to you for like a year and a half.
And
I knew you longer than that, but I was like, Ryan, don't say that to her. She's not going to handle that well. Don't say that, Ryan. Don't say that.
But
I'm like,
think about that first year of like us working together too. It was like, that was back when the pit was like free. It was a lot bigger. It had 300-400 people in it.
600.
Yeah.
I should have kept it free.
That was.
I really should have.
We'll get back to it. But like, how active was I in the free pit? I wasn't active. I wasn't using the network. I was trying to do it all on my own. And it was coming out as like, wow, that hard ass, like, what does she even do? She's trying to do everything. But like, when you said that, like that point of that year, I got right into the pit, and I was like, that's when I started getting real close with
You were vulnerable. You were willing
and
for help.
Nikki, asking them for help, like developing that friendship with them, with you, with Matt, with Dylan, with just like, guys, I need help. What are my weak points? What are my blind spots? Help me. And the second I like opened up that room for that feedback and surrounded myself with people, like everything changed.
Here's the crazy thing that happens in that most people don't realize, and this is for men especially. When you crack open the vulnerability and you ask for help, or you just share it, and again, you don't have to be like me and be bold and put your vulnerabilities out there on social media, but like if you just do it for your ecosystem of people, there's a lot of people that may want to do business with you or want to get to know you more, to maybe do business in the future, but like they have a misunderstanding of you.
Yeah.
And like, the minute you open those gates and allow people in, like business flourishes. It is, and I don't mean you should do that in a tactful way just to do it. Like, do it for your real growth. But the minute, because there's a lot of people online who like fake the funk of vulnerability and sweetness and all the nice shit. There are great charlatans out there. But if you're genuinely opening yourself up to vulnerability, you create some really, really strong relationships in your circle of people.
And it's hard because that is the point where you can no longer keep like your personal life and your business separate. because it's bleeding into it. And it is really hard to ask for help in your business if you are an independent person that never asks for help. And it's hard to take that wall
Yeah,
down.
and you don't want to feel stupid either. Like, you think that, not you, but any of us, me too, if I ask for help on this, they're not going to think I'm good at what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I remember years ago, I ran into like how I filed my tax returns. This is going back 7-8 years ago before I made any like real money. Like, I was like going down a block to like the lady who like definitely was ripping bogues while we like talked, and she had like H&R Block. Like, I didn't have like a sophisticated tax return, and I kind of like continued that as I made more money, and I had to seek help for that. Now, I built some pretty sophisticated pension plans and do a lot of high-end estate planning with tax, and all of a sudden I have like these stupid things. But at that point in my life, I wasn't making real money.
Yeah.
I was learning all of this stuff. 7 years probably, I'd say probably before I met Kelly. I've known Kelly 11 years, which is crazy. It's probably like 11, 12 years back. But like, I was embarrassed at the time, who was supposed to be a finance guy, but 11 years back, I'm 27 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you could still ask for help, bro.
Yeah.
And I know there's a ton of people out there, even men at 38, like, they're a little intimidated to ask for some type of help. Like, ask for help.
Yeah.
Drop your ego a little bit, and you'll see some strong relationships come out of it.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like voicing it all over social media.
Correct.
Like, it's literally reaching out to your close networks, having a conversation. Both of us were in separate parking lots in separate states. Just like, hey, I have a weak spot and I don't know what it is. Talk to me about it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. That was awesome. So you go into corporate America, you are not digging it so much. You know,
Yeah.
the for-profit wasn't really working out the way that you wanted to. COVID hits. What happens?
Oh yeah, the lost year. So I was still in my corporate job at the time, in Connecticut, and Connecticut followed what, I don't know, I'm assuming y'all did something. I'm pretty sure y'all did something pretty similar, but our government, our governor was following what New York City's governor did, like tri-state area.
Yeah, Jersey and New York essentially follow each other.
We all did the same thing. And it was like, I'm up there living in the middle of the woods, like in rural Connecticut, looking around like, why can't I leave my house? Like, why are these rules like this? What is happening?
Yeah.
And
It looks like my trees are pretty safe out there.
but it was like we were following rules for people that were living on top of each other. And it was, at the beginning, like, it was just fear, like everyone, even like the people that have you and I's viewpoints now, like those first couple weeks, even couple months, like, we were afraid. We weren't acting on it yet, but no one knew it was happening. And as things started coming to light and rules started being put in place, and then my corporate companies started talking about potential, like, hey, you do this or you lose your job, just like everyone, like, something didn't feel right.
Do what?
Was like, what?
They were telling you to do what?
They were saying, if you don't get vaccinated, like, we're gonna, at the time they were working on a corporate policy, if you would be able
Are you
to
vaccinated?
keep your job. Me? No, I'm not.
Why were you so anti the vax?
Coming from my background, you and I went over like what I went to school for, sustainable food. In my alternate life, I'm a nutritionist also. I had, through my corporate career, I also had a nutrition practice, and I had a meal prep company on top of having a corporate job over the years. I'm very conscious of what I put in my body. I also had a DVT blood clot back in 2019 that almost killed me. I was in the ICU for a week and had to have multiple surgeries, like knocking on death's door. And it was a result of a medication that I was putting in my body, a side effect. And I'm very conscious, food, now medication, anything, even if a doctor tells me to, I am very leery unless I have evidence and I feel good about it. I'm not going to do it. And I had people in my family. My mom only has think she has 70% lung capacity. She has very significant breathing problems. She always has. Her doctor immediately told her to get the vaccine. She went out and got it, went out and got the booster. My dad lived with her. He went out, got the vaccine, got the booster. Everyone in my family, whether it was a health concern or a relationship, or they were getting married or they were having a baby, it was recommended. Boom, they went out and got it because they didn't want their lives to be disrupted. They didn't want to take any chances. And I'm sitting there and I'm like,
And that was so many people. It was not just your family. It was so many.
It was
people.
It was everyone I knew.
This one's got cancer. This one's got heart issues.
Everyone
whatever
knows,
it was.
Yeah, there's always a reason. And to me, like, the most pressing reason for me was, like, I worked in an industry that was an essential industry. So I had to work, like, I was one of the people that was allowed on the roads every day. It wasn't healthcare, but I was in an industry where I was required to go to work. And it was, then I wasn't allowed in my office unless I got vaccinated. So I was like, all right, I'll work from home. But then it turned into, okay, you may not be able to work here. We're figuring out the company policy. And I don't know how else to explain it, except, like, I knew something was wrong. It just didn't make sense to me. I was like,
Yeah, you had that feeling. I felt the same.
Coming from the food system and spending 6 years studying organic versus GMO agriculture, and, like, how little or how short of a length of time genetically modified organisms have been a thing in the food system and what they do to bodies. Like, I dedicated almost a decade of my life to studying this. I'm looking at food and then I'm looking at a vaccine and I'm like, well, if it's true for food and we're putting food in our body, why is it not transferable to a vaccine and why is no one talking about it? And then I started voicing my opinion and I was a conspiracy theorist. And then my brother almost didn't want me at his wedding. And then all of these people, and it was like my family turning against me. And I was like, what is going on? This is wrong.
Holy shit. I'm not talking about your brother, but
no,
like,
I know. And I
these
was like,
people that did that shit, like, we've lost friends. Like, there's people that were like,
There's still
we're not
people-
going to come to your house unless you get a test. And I'm like, yo, dog, listen. I've never, still to this day, I've never taken one motherfucking COVID test.
yeah.
On fucking purpose, not one test. And I got my own trophy for it. Don't worry, I know I'm special. I have not taken one test just for the point. Like, I remember going into the ER one day, like, choking, like, and I had them give me chest x-rays.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know, Mr. Ron, we should. And I said, listen, you've been very nice. But if you ask me one more fucking time to get a COVID test, I'm telling you, I'm going to flip the fuck out. I don't want a COVID test. Am I dying? No. Okay, send me home with whatever you want to recommend for me.
My problem with it, and
People were afraid to give them, defend them. They were afraid.
And what I think is such, like, a detrimental misconception to so many relationships is the people that did choose to get vaccinated or were forced to get vaccinated hated the people that didn't. And everyone that I know, like, we were not, I asked my mom not to because of her health condition. I was like, I personally feel that your health condition could be much more at risk if you get an untested vaccine rather than getting it, but go ahead, do what your doctor tells you. But I was not going around telling other people not to get it. If you want to get it, if you want to vaccinate your kids, if you want to do it, if you want to listen to your job, go do it. Just stop telling me to get it. Like, do what you want to do.
Why is it always like I have to do what you guys are doing? Like, I don't tell you what to do.
If you are so confident that it's the right thing, then you're protected. You got the vaccine.
Yeah.
So let me go to the grocery store. It's okay.
You can't come to the wedding.
And it was just, like, infuriating, where it was just like, I don't understand why you're not using your brain. And then all I would get spewing back at me is, like, media headlines. And I'm like,
because we got
but
so
use your brain.
We got so, as a society, like, just lazy, like, not critically thinking. Like, didn't they launch, like, this different type of math years ago in school?
Oh, you make a grid.
Yeah, to help kids.
I don't have kids. I can't even.
Yeah, like, you couldn't do 2 + 2. You had to show how you thought about 2 + 2. Right?
Yeah,
it was something
just
stupid.
like,
Anyway,
memorized.
but it was to, like, make people critically think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys have created a society where you just tell people what to do. Like, we are slaves in your system, straight up. So
Yeah.
the people who are outsiders, rebels, don't feel part of the pack, we're like, nah, that's stupid, doesn't make any sense. Like, it was, I wouldn't say instantly, I wiped groceries for about a week, not gonna lie. And
We left them in the garage.
yeah, left them
I
in the
did do
garage.
that.
I definitely did do that. I admit that for 1 week. And then when they started saying the 6-foot rule and the mask, but I could pick up my DV tree and like talk to people
Yeah.
in there.
It just,
Like,
math wasn't math
yeah,
anymore.
this doesn't make any sense. And then my rebel instinct kicked in. But I think when you're a rule follower and you go through the education system and you're in academia and then you become a corporate employee, you've just become kind of soft.
I mean, those institutions are designed to not have you think autonomously because it's not good for business. It's
Yeah.
not good for the end result. It's
You gotta
not
be on the
good for the
team.
mass. It's all about the mass, like the entity. It's not about you. So it's like we take away your ability to think for yourself, then the mass is safe and we can steer it wherever we want. So
Do you think that was ever like an actual calculated shot at free thinkers? Because they don't like small business. They don't like someone who thinks for themselves. That scares the shit out of the people in control. In my opinion.
I don't think that I'm hesitant to say I think that it was an attack on small business. I do think that the people that made the laws, just like most politicians, are not, most of them are not from low to middle class. They weren't business owners. They didn't, they have been in this political realm. They don't have experience with the things, and I'm saying this as someone who worked in the nonprofit world for over a decade and had to ask for money from government agencies to help their constituents, to help the people that were in need. The people that make the laws and design the protocols and create the hoops that you need to jump through, they have never been in the shoes of the people that they're helping. So in COVID, in that instance, like politicians were caught every day out at restaurants and having dinner parties and being filmed with camera phones. Like, they weren't wearing masks, they weren't getting vaccinated, they weren't doing these things. Were they genuinely trying to help the masses? Were they genuinely trying to flatten the curve, whatever they wanted to call it? We're never gonna know. I don't think
Some of them.
they had. I think there's always good and bad people on every side, but I don't think that they had the right to overstep as much as they did. Whether or not they were trying to help, whether or not it was intentional, whether or not it was an attack on anyone, they overstepped. I do believe that firmly. And they did not have a right to do a lot of the things that they mandated, just like it was then passed into corporate America, where companies were laying people off or firing people. Healthcare, a lot of my friends in healthcare lost their careers because they wouldn't. Like, those things should not have happened. That is an overreach. That is an overstep, regardless of the reason and who did it. I very much believe in autonomy and freedom, and it's why I'm in your network and believing in Fireside's mission. And I believe in freedom of the individual.
Freedom
And
means everything
there
for
is
everybody, including getting
balance.
vaccines,
Yeah.
or being somebody who's a entrepreneur, I call it, a salesperson inside of
Yeah.
a corporate company. Freedom is whatever you want.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, like, if you got your vaccines and you're safe, don't push that shit on me,
Yeah.
dog, if I don't want it.
That's what it's always been about. And it broke my heart. Like, sorry, Dad, if you end up watching this. Like, my dad is my best friend. He's my mentor. Like, both of my parents are. I'm very close to both my parents. And when I moved to Texas, I would get strings every couple days, blocks of text messages from my dad begging me to get vaccinated because he would turn on the
And you're
news
going,
in Connecticut.
damn. He was scared for you.
And months after I moved, they were still having like the death count and the case count and like the toll on
The
the news in
ticker.
Connecticut. Yeah, it wasn't playing in Texas, which is why I moved there, but it was playing in Connecticut. And he would just, I don't want to see my child die before me. I don't want to bury my child. Like, just the
Crazy,
media in his
yeah.
brain, and I couldn't even be mad
It
at
was a
him.
psychosis.
I was so sad. I was like,
crazy.
you guys shut the TV off. I'm begging you, shut the TV off.
Yeah.
I'm looking around my gym in Texas with healthy, happy people not wearing masks, not vaccinated.
I've seen the
And I'm
videos
like,
down in Florida. I'm going, I gotta go there
like,
now.
you guys, like, yes, some people were ignorant at the beginning. Were they right or wrong? I won't say whether they were right or wrong. I think, like, people were being assholes about it for sure on both sides. But, like, I was like, please shut the TV off. Please shut the TV off. And it damaged my relationship with, like, my family over something that I wanted to do for me. And I explained why. I explained my reasons for my choice, and still had that pressure. And it
How do you feel about it now?
broke me.
How was like the conversations about it now?
Now it's a massive unspoken I told you so, and they it's very much just,
Oh, I'd be showing up
Carly,
at
you were
Thanksgiving
right.
with a fucking sweater of a list of diseases that the vaccines has caused.
I don't
Inside
rub it in their
people.
face, and it's just the people that still
The ones
fight
in my
me
family,
on
they
it.
were like drinking it, like,
Yeah, the people that get upset when I bring it up now, they can't give a good reason why they're upset. It's just they're upset that they were wrong, and it's all coming to light, and they don't want to admit that they
yeah, they need to
reacted.
admit it for themselves, for their own good,
Yeah.
not for you or me, because I'm still your friend, and like anybody that took a vaccine, I am, like, come back and be like, hey, I was harsh on you, or hey, I said you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sticks and
I don't
stones.
even
may break
need an
bones.
apology. It's just
They don't need
like,
an apology.
just move on with your life. Like
Yeah.
you made
Stop living in fear.
You did something, you can't take it back. So just move on and
It's just like these.
learn a lesson.
It's just like these drones right now. Like people in Jersey are freaking out. And I'm like, you guys think it's a foreign country about to drop payloads in neighborhoods? Like, come on. The U.S. military know exactly what they are.
Yeah.
They're most likely the U.S. military.
Yeah.
But people are freaking out. Like, people in Jersey are like demanding answers. The sheriff's office, the FBI, the state police are all like, they're literally like, we don't know. Like, we can't catch them.
Yeah.
But people are freaking out. So it's so
Really
easy
is.
to like poke the public.
Y'all
and
have had all kinds of weird stuff happen this year, though.
yeah,
That
why?
and like the
why are
weather,
they picking
the
on Jersey?
sky thing.
It must have been like a deal Murphy like made with the devil. He was like, listen, you start talking about Jersey and marketing us, but I don't know if this is good marketing. I heard the guys down in South Jersey shot one of those things down. I don't know. Maybe it's a rumor, but you don't mess with the guys in Jersey, especially South Jersey.
Yeah.
So you obviously go out on your own and you start joining some of these groups. You join the Lion's Den, which is where we met originally.
Yep.
You were someone in there hustling like me, looking to meet people. That's where we met Dylan over there, with his 13-year-old dudes on. My partner in Patriot Payment, we all met inside of that group. Tell us about what you were looking to do. What was your business going to be about?
So, I mean, I didn't join the den until I was in Texas. I basically, in 2021, I was like, look, COVID, I gave this a year. It's not getting any better. I was getting so depressed. Like, I could feel the heaviness. I went through another Connecticut winter, and it was isolation, and I was working from home, and I was about to lose my job, and I was just like, I want to get away from snow and politics and taxes, and what is the opposite of Connecticut for me to do that? Texas sounds nice, let's go there. So I found a corporate job pretty quickly, and I packed up and I moved to Texas and did not know anyone. I've done that a few times in my life. I just basically threw something at a map on the wall and was like, I've never lived there before, let's go there. So
It's kind of fun.
it's so fun. I love it. I love starting over.
Not that I've done that much. It just sounds fun.
I was like, oh, you did that too?
No, I did not do that. I moved from like brick to point to,
I did
where
that. I
live now.
moved to Georgia for a while. I lived in Kansas. I lived in Colorado. And it was all just, I don't know anyone there. I didn't know anyone. I don't have family there. I just I have family in Kansas, but I just like, I moved there. I
Kansas is
wanted.
boring.
I don't go to Kansas. Kansas sucks.
It's boring. It's almost as bad as Iowa.
But yeah, I moved to Texas, moved to Houston, and I didn't know anyone. And it was like, I was just in a mode. We talked earlier about like, you have to be in a mode of being receptive to change. You have to seek growth out. People can't tell you to grow. People can't tell you to change. You have to be ready for it and choose it. And I was just in a mindset of newness and being in a bad place for a year and a half. And I had just gone through something really, really traumatic in my personal life and was grieving, and I just needed a community of people that thought like me. My whole life, I've just always felt different. Coming out of COVID with a lot of my friends and my family, I was tired of being different. Like, I wanted people that thought like me to just support me and help me find a new direction. So I joined the Den, and we just, in the group, one thing led to another. I don't even remember how it happened, but all the people in Texas found each other, and we all created like a Texas Den within the
Meetups.
Den. And we started just meeting up every month. And to this day, several people in that Texas Den are my very best friends. Like, they are,
I gotta say something impressive to give Sean credit.
yeah.
I think that guy pisses me off sometimes, but to give him credit and respect, like, he launched something really cool and
Yeah.
helped a lot of people realize that you can utilize social media, me being one of them. All this was really birthed from Sean's original thoughts.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was my job to go to work and learn it and use my vision, but I give credit to him with that. And then also talk about timing is everything.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah.
he was on this kick of like freedom, his brand, and then boom, COVID happens. And to his credit, he kind of is who he is, and also like a marketing guy, and he wasn't getting kicked out of restaurants and posting about it, and his brand took off.
Yeah.
And everybody who kind of thought like he did was able to find one another, and I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, none of the Texas Den is in the Den anymore, but like you said, it served a purpose in our life, and I am eternally grateful to Sean for creating that space for us to come together, for me to meet you and Dylan and so many people, like in the Fireside community, but then in my Texas community too. Scott and Ann Travis too are two great friends that I have now.
The
from
painter
that
guy?
group. Yeah. Amazing people. I've met so many people that have literally changed my life. I've experienced more growth since I joined the Den, just whether it was a direct result of the Den or the people I met there.
Think about how people like listen to
It's-
this. They're probably like, listen to these nut jobs.
People
Right?
are like,
They
"Oh,
were
it's
just like
cool."
they were just like in their town, like, you know, wearing their fucking wearing their mask.
Yeah.
Like, look at these people. Like, they're just nuts. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, no, it's called freedom.
That's literally what it comes
Yeah.
down to.
And whatever
what
that means
I'm
to you is-
doing, who I'm either paying for a space at their table or meeting and creating our own group or just staying in contact with, it doesn't affect you. Let me be free to live my life and go in the direction that I want to go, and you do yours, and we can still be friends at the end of the day. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
You don't have to have everyone think like you.
Yeah. People
wild.
thought I was like a complete nut job, tinfoil hat, you know, around where we work. Cause like, I don't wear a mask in any of these places. And I did respectfully for, you know, some of the restaurants and small business owners, like temporarily halfway on my chin until I sat at my table. That made sense. But I didn't want a small business owner to be hurt. So I played the game to some degree.
Yeah.
But what a weird time. So you launch your business, you start doing marketing for small business owners. Tell us exactly what you do for small business owners and kind of lay out some of the things that you offer.
Yeah, so when I was in the Den, I was working for a marketing agency that had terrible culture. Like, God, it was wild. And I was like most people, I was one of those people that I would just meet up with my Texas Den every month And every month they'd be like, okay, so what'd you do different? And I'd be just like, oh, well, nothing. I just can't. It's not a good time. I have vacation coming up. And I was just always complaining about my job, but I wasn't doing anything. And they were calling me out. They gave me like 2 or 3 months to just like drag my feet and make excuses. And then they finally were like, what is wrong with you? And I had a phone call with Sean Whalen, and I'll never forget this. It's cliche. I mean, it's something that you've heard a lot, but he said, you need to jump and you need to build your wings on the way down and you will figure it out, but you need to just do it and you cannot have a plan B. And I was like, all right. And I was at Lions Den Live a week later, and I was surrounded by all of the people that had been supporting me for months and had listened to me complain and had listened to me say, I'm not happy with my life. And I wrote an email and I hit send and I quit my job, and I gave them 2 weeks notice, and the culture of this job, they turned right back around. Typical corporate, you're disposable, you're just a number to them. I gave them 2 weeks, and within an hour, they emailed me back and said, thank you so much for your consideration. Today can be your last day. We'll ship your office to you. And I was like, well, I guess I'm unemployed. And my friends,
I guess I'm a new business owner.
and my friends looked at me and they were like, you're not unemployed, you're self-employed. Now go do something. And that first week, I just phone calls. I called everyone I knew, and I was like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm passionate about. How can I help you?
Yeah, how can we work together?
Of service to you? And you were one of those phone calls. But so I took essentially what I tried to do, what I set out that first week. I was like, what is my mission? Like, what do I
Can I
want
stop
to
you real
do?
quick though?
Yeah.
Because I'll forget the thought.
Yeah.
How many times do I say in the Pitts call, like, you need to just walk through the exercise and then jump?
Yeah.
And your brain figures it out. I don't know what that's called. I'm not a brain expert, nor do I really give a fuck to motivate you. Whoever the fuck you are watching this, I don't give a fuck. I'm good, dude. I'm living nice. I am blessed. But there is something inside of me that wants to always talk to young Ryan when I'm trying to help in this light. Jump. If you hate your job, jump. If you hate where you live, sell your house. It all works out. And whatever it is inside of your brain, it eliminates all distraction.
It's called survival.
And it gets focused on the most important thing. I have a software in my finance business. It's called an economic model.
Yeah.
And what it essentially does is I can kill you off, I can make you disabled, I can eliminate your income, I can do all different types of things to manipulate your world. And the system is so intelligent, it will tell me where the best place is to take money from inside your economic model that's most tax efficient, that doesn't have penalties, and so on and so on and so on. Your brain is that way.
Yeah.
It's going to literally find the best answer for you. Take the leap. Stop being afraid.
You will adapt. It's survival. Unless it's the only
Fear is
choice
fake.
you have. If it's the only choice you have, you will figure it out. I know there's like this statistic that it's like whatever, most small businesses fail within the first 2 years, or it takes this many years to make a profit, it takes this many years to blah blah. I replaced my corporate income in the first year because I had to.
Yeah, there's no other choice.
I was supporting myself. I had an $1,800 rent payment due on top of all my bills. My family was 1,500 miles away. I did not have a plan B. I made money or I was homeless, and I was not about to be homeless. So you figure it out, but as long as you have a backup plan, as long as you have a plan B, you will not adapt.
And here's the other thing. If you currently are figuring it out and it's like ugly, it's okay.
It's supposed to be.
Like, at times you're gonna rob Peter to pay Paul. At times you're gonna accumulate some debt. At times you're gonna fuck up your taxes. You're new to business. You're learning how to do it. What you can write off, what you can't. Like, it's not perfect, but you will figure it out. Get to failure as fast as you can, because the more you fail, the more you learn. And that's cliche too, but like that's facts.
Yeah.
And you obviously, stood for that, jumped, took your leap.
I jumped, and I decided that first week that my mission was like, I wanted to see, especially coming out of COVID, I wanted to see small businesses win. Like, I wanted to see my peers and the people that I met in these coaching groups, the people, all of my friends in Texas that I was starting to surround myself with, they were all business owners. And I wanted to help people. I said earlier, like, I truly believe my purpose on this earth is to care for other people. Don't care what capacity it's in. I care about everyone way too much around me. And I wanted to help other people make a living while I could make a living. And I didn't want to do it in a corporate setting anymore. I didn't want to jump through the hoops of nonprofit anymore, even though I do think that work's important still. I wanted to help the people that were stuck, the people that had the tenacity, they had the grit, they had the energy, they had the fire to get to that next level of their business, to create generational wealth, to make a life for their family, but there was something missing and they couldn't figure out what it was. And in 15 years working for every industry you can imagine, I can look at a business strategically and say, at least from a brand perspective, and say, this is why you're not connecting with your customer. This is why, this is that one little detail in your marketing that you're skipping over. This is where your customer journey is falling apart. This is why people are not connecting with these hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of marketing efforts you just dumped money into. This is that one flaw that you have that's preventing people from seeing you authentically. I can see that. I have done it for so many businesses of so many sizes and so many industries. I know it. It's textbook.
Yeah, it comes to you.
Marketing is marketing. Branding is branding. It doesn't matter what you sell, who you're talking to. And I know small business owners are a one-man show, one-woman show. They try to do everything. And
Well, you have to a lot of times. You wear all caps.
But if I could help take one thing off your plate that's going to make a difference, and I am more skilled at it because I just spent more than 15 years learning how to do it the right way with someone else's money. If I could do it for you the right way with a little bit of your money so that you can get to that next level, and then, turn around and pay me to do something bigger and then something bigger.
Yeah,
we could climb the ladder together. But sometimes it's just one thing. I see so much potential in businesses and in brands, and I'm like, you have it. Just fix this one thing and you can keep going. I want to help you fix that one thing because I know how to. And
brand is everything. I've always been a big brand guy myself, and we collaborate now on a lot of the stuff with the brand, but brand is everything in a small business. I like, the gear. I'm rocking a Patriot Payments hoodie tonight. I haven't worn any of our gear, but like branding is everything, and it's not just having a hoodie or a hat. You need to be able to touch people in a couple different ways for them to feel your brand, become familiar with your brand, think your brand is authentic, get across the point of what it is that you do and what you're passionate about, and obviously your product or your service. And that's not easy, especially when you're good at being a plumber.
Yeah.
Or you're good at cutting hair. Like you need a brand, and you do an excellent job with that. I'm not going to make you go through the details of what you do, but I'll fast track that for people. You do an excellent job of coming in and saying, hey, we're going to sit down, I'm going to pull out everything you think and what this business is about and who your customer is, and then you go thoroughly through that with them, and you come up with a very customized plan for them. And it's something that I think at times we have talked about this. You tell people what that costs, and they're like, oh, they have like sticker shock, which is crazy because you can all go out and blow, 10, 15 grand a year on booze, but you're not willing to spend, that type of money on a branding session, and someone actually willing to walk through it with you to build logos and color schemes and all of the stuff that you do, and then the copywriting. Obviously, we can go on and on.
Yeah.
You do an excellent job, and a lot of small business owners need to look into that more because, I just had the guy running for governor. And I literally said to his face, and I guess his campaign manager, whoever this guy Tom was, I'm like, dude, your social media sucks. Like, dude, Trump just got elected because of Joe Rogan, Vaughn, and all of the podcasts that he was on.
Yeah.
PBD, all of it. Like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Like, I understand that you have a radio show and it's very successful, and he's great at it. Great talker, great speaker. But, like, it's 2024. You need to get on social media. And there's a lot of businesses out there that are just not doing simple things for their branding and marketing that can make huge impact.
Well, that's what I think is so important is you can't buy a course to teach you what's wrong with your business. You can't pay for an ebook. You can't even join a coaching group to fix your business. Like, it helps, sure, but it is so individualized, and that is like what I am passionate about doing for businesses, and what I tell them that I'm doing is I don't go into a branding session and say, like, we're going to talk about your business, we're going to come up with copy, and then we're going to build a website, and then your business is going to be fixed and you can go. What you're actually paying me for is I help you take the emotion out of your business. Because you, as a small business owner, your business is your livelihood. It's your family. It's your everything. It's your legacy. And with that comes emotion. And that emotion is keeping you from seeing your blind spots and keeping you from looking at your brand from an outside perspective. So I come in, I help you see that. We identify those blind spots. Sure, maybe we build you a website. Maybe we fix your social media. Maybe we get you on social media. Maybe we do nothing and it's just a training for your team. I don't go into it with a plan. The plan comes out of it. But small businesses they're so fun. Like, I am so passionate about.
They're awesome.
About, like, everyone's is so unique. I get to do something different every day with every client.
I'm still
every
shocked at people I
project.
run into in the finance space. I'm like, you made $10 million doing what? You know, and it's awesome. It's so
Yeah.
cool.
And people are so passionate about it. I just did a website about workforce compliance. Like, would I have ever picked that out of a hat? No. But I learned
Anything
so much,
that says
and it was so
compliance
fun.
is horrible.
And my
Anything
client
compliance
loved
sucks.
it, though. It's what he loved to
Yeah,
do. Like,
yeah.
it made him so much money, and he has a growing family, and he's like, I love this website. This is amazing. And I was like, great.
It's fun.
I didn't know what I was writing about, but I learned a lot.
But you're able to really, because a lot of times you can be good at what you do, but you can't put that to paper.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really articulate it the right way. Like, I've been told I'm actually a really good writer. I'm just not good at, like, properly communicating that. So, like, the thought comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, you deal with me a lot. I'll just send you, like,
You're a storyteller, and your articulation is sometimes off.
yeah. So, like, I'll send you, like, this long thing, and I'm like, Carly, we
Yeah.
need to, like, make this make sense. And then how I see you put that out is super cool. And listen, you're communicating to your customer, whether you're a service-based business, you're selling a product online, you're having a retail store, you need to communicate to your customer what it is that you do. And having the right copy and brand and all of that. And again, I'm not just giving you a commercial. It is so fucking important. You hear me preach about it, you know, since, you know, you and I have met, which is how I launched all this, was just kind of like blowing up a brand that kind of was like, well, who the hell is this guy? And it got me attention, and then you ran with it.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
Did we miss
So
anything?
fun.
We were all over the map.
We were all over the place.
It's my fault.
Talked about so much. It was fun. I got to sit by the fire and warm my
The
Texas
last
blood.
half hour has been steaming hot. My shins feel like they're on fire.
I'm about to crawl into the
I'm
coals.
glad that you're no longer cold. I feel like the temperature changed again, but I do see my breath.
Yeah.
I hope you had fun.
I had so much fun. It
Yeah,
was
we
great.
don't usually ever do it on Monday or Sunday, so I did one last night, and you today.
We had a podcast out.
We have Charlie's event tomorrow. And then I'm actually I won't stop working. I don't know how to. I'm obsessed with progress, but I'm gonna try to kind of coast the rest of December, and then my family and I are going away for 2 weeks. You got anything cool
Good.
planned?
Just going back to Connecticut to see family, but that's it. It'll be good. I like the quiet things, getting older and just spending time with family. That's all I need. I don't want parties. I don't want big celebrations.
Yeah.
Just with people.
Too much work.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
I just want some quiet. Just
Yeah.
hang out with my dog.
Yeah, peace. I get it. Well, this is fun.
Yeah.
I like to ask 2 questions at the end. If you can give anybody, let's say young Carly, one piece of advice launching a business, what would it be?
We already said it, but it's just jump. If you don't do it now, when is a good time to do it? There's
Yeah,
never
never.
a good time to do it. Life is way too short, and I hate that you have to have, most people, including myself, you have to have a traumatic, life-altering moment in your life to make you realize how short life is. But everyone has a timer, and it's running out, and you don't know when it's going to run out. So just do it.
Quick story with that. When I went out to Utah 2 years ago, maybe 3, we were in a room and this speaker came in and they was talking about like how short life is. And he gave some stat, whether it was 1 in 10, 1 in 20, whatever it was pretty alarming. They're like, someone won't be in this room next year if we all came back here. Everybody that was here now came back next year. And 2 weeks later, this guy I met that I was sitting at the cocktail table with him the first night, not kind of really knowing anybody. And I'm kind of a guy that like, you know, like I don't, like, I kind of walk in that room and I'm like, you know, fuck these people, I'll beat everybody. Like, that's just my mentality. I don't know how to get rid of it. And this guy was kind of like a tough guy, but like a nice dude, had a successful business, couple businesses. Long story short, 2 weeks later, he was killed in an armed robbery, like out of his car.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I was like, holy shit. And then that speaker came to mind.
Yeah.
And that's one of the greatest, you know, credits I can give to Keaton, that he instilled in me is like, life is short. Like, go get it now, dude. Like, go take your bite now and go after it, because life is short.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. Second one, any other people you want to give some love and shout out to? I know you talked about your mom and your dad and your family. Anybody else that has really helped you in business or personally that you want to give some love to?
I actually took a huge leap of faith, literally and figuratively. I got baptized a couple months ago, rebaptized, and
It's cool.
Did
they do it like in the tub at the church, or did you go like
in
an
a
ocean?
big pool outside the church.
All right, they have a pool at the church? Churches are different in Texas.
Things are real different in Texas. It's non-denominational, but I'm part of a church called Hope City in Houston, and my pastors, Jackie and Daniel Groves, are amazing, and it's brought a lot to my life. I grew up 20 years full blown atheist after being raised Greek Ukrainian Orthodox, like my grandmother, like very, very strict religion, legalistic religious upbringing, into 20 years of a full-blown atheism. And it took...
Were you really an atheist, or you were just saying that?
No, I repelled religion. If you told me anything, if you mentioned God, I would like laugh at you and put you down.
Doesn't the Bible say like you always come back to daddy? He's like, you always come back.
I don't think it says it verbatim that way, but yeah.
But that's what he says. Like, you always end up coming back to God, and you know, I understand why you maybe left the house for a little while.
That's
I'm simplifying.
It's a whole, that could be like a whole nother podcast, but I'm very grateful for those people, for Hope City, for my church, and for just the people in my life that have supported me on that journey, because it's very personal, and church talk, faith talk, like you can very much isolate people and push people away. And I've been very careful about like how I talk about it with people, because I used to be one of those people that would get offended.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to, if it's a part of who you are and it's a part of how you think and how you live and the values that you have, to talk about it. So I did want to bring that up because it's important to me. It's changed me.
It's good.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, Tucker said it on the interview with Sean Ryan. He's like, dude, Christians like save the world right now. Like, if it can really be saved, like it was them who were humble and stepped up and did the tough shit and sacrificed, and you know, people who, you know, have some type of a belief in a higher faith.
Yeah.
And maybe everybody should look at it a little bit more.
It's about what we talked about this whole time. It's literally, the Bible is literally about loving other people and having peace.
I used to say,
That's what it is.
I grew up very religious, my parents were, and then I was like, this is boring, this sucks. I had to go to church for 3 hours every day. They were Pentecostal.
Oh,
And it was just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is like too much. And then like the Catholic people, then you heard about all like the kid touching in the Catholic world. I'm like, that's weird, not for me. And really for the last, I'm 38, so the last 20 years I've kind of like just been, I'm not anti-God at all. I
Yeah.
believe in God, I pray, but I don't go to church, or I'm not like a part of something, and I don't push it on anybody else. I don't talk about it a ton at all, actually. But it's just my relationship with it. And, he made me, so sometimes I'm like, God, you fucking did this, dude. Oh, fuck you, you did it. Because I used to think like I can't curse and I can't drink, and like, no, we're imperfect humans. And I'm glad that you're back at church and it's bringing you some type of peace and happiness.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I think somebody would get something really good at it. We didn't like drill down. I know you can get crazy on marketing and technical, but I think it was more of like awesome to hear like your story, and I learned a little bit more too.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
Don't talk about myself a lot.
No, it's good. It was good. Good. I gave you a commercial, hopefully.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you. How did we do?